2020 is going to be a good year, I think. Unless we have another financial meltdown and Trump gets reelected, then it will be bad. But I'm optimistic, and that's not usually something I am. I don't think I accomplished a single one of the goals I laid out for myself in that video last year. I did 0 episodes of how the profit motive fails. I actually became less ambitious with regards to the production of my videos. I made less music. I definitely didn't put out a video for 2 weeks. Frankly, I'm surprised I put out 13 videos this year. Well, technically it was more than 13, but these two don't count in my opinion. It seems like a lot of my content was more reactive than normal. These videos were all cranked out really quickly in response to things that had just happened. And while some were a bit more hastily drawn up than others, there's this real sense throughout my channel in 2020 that there wasn't a lot of planning involved, like I was being dragged through the year, and it certainly felt that way. And that's a feeling that I think is pretty common. Because folks, 2020 was rough in a number of ways, so let's talk about it, I guess. The low-hanging fruit is, of course, the ongoing pandemic. It brought a lot of life to basically a grinding halt. And even though it didn't really affect a lot of what I do day to day, its mere existence had an effect. I've also only seen my sister once in the last year, so there's that. I also think it's funny that I never made a video about COVID-19. I just didn't really feel like I had anything to say that wasn't being said over and over and over again by people more qualified than me. There was also the second great rat fucking of Bernard Sanders, which pretty much shattered the last remaining sliver of hope I had that the system can be meaningfully reformed. Honestly, I kind of cringe when I think back on my Bernie Sanders video. Not necessarily because any of the positions I held in it were wrong or I disagree with them, but mostly because I very clearly had a lot of faith in what his potential presidency could represent and what he could actually accomplish. And needless to say, I do not feel that strongly anymore. Of course, I still like Bernie a lot. I think his heart is in the right place, to a degree that few politicians can even hope to match. I would still vote for him. I would still support him, even given what I know now, but just with a heaping tablespoon of skepticism with regards to what he can actually get done. Having that illusion shattered really sucked, but I think it's a good thing in the long run. And then there was the end of Rev Team. Future Quinn here, editing the video. I just want to preface this particular section by saying that what I'm about to talk about with regards to Rev Team are really my own personal experiences with the group and feelings about it. I didn't talk to any of the other former members of Rev Team before I recorded this. So, take that for what it is. Also, between the time that I recorded this and now, there have been some accusations leveled at another former member of Rev Team. So that's not included in this section of the video, and I'm also not going to comment on it, because this is not really the place to do that. So Rev Team was started by Eddie over at Actual Context. Subscribe to them if you haven't already, and it was an attempt to bring together a broad group of left-wing YouTubers and podcasters and Twitch streamers in order to pool resources and collaborate and democratically pick topics to cover every month as so that we could release them simultaneously as a way to sort of storm the algorithm. You know, like what right-wing grifters do, how they have each other on all their shows and talk about the same things over and over again, but, you know, in a way that's not pure evil. And I still think Rev Team's mission was a good one and something that could do a lot of good if there's ever an attempt to do something like it in the future. Of course, as with, you know, a lot of projects like this, there was a ton of enthusiasm right out the gate. A lot of people actively wanted to join, but figuring out how to organize it was a bit of a process, and a lot of it ended up falling on Eddie's shoulders. And then there was what the kids call drama, which I think is a term used exclusively to downplay important conflicts. Some members left as a result, and then the pandemic hit. Before too long, Rev Team was no more. Now, to be 100% clear, with exactly one exception, I love every former member of Rev Team, and I don't think any of them are at all to blame for it not working out. Sometimes you have all the right pieces, and they just don't fall into place. Most of us are still mutuals on Twitter. We shout at each other's work. You know, we occasionally collaborate. You know, a bunch of us were even on the charity stream for Godless Cranium. And it was really fun. And given there being, again, with exactly one exception, no bad blood or anything, you know, a lot of us really cared about Rev Team as a project. And it was really discouraging to see it not work out. And hey, if anyone has any desire to organize another project like this, hit me up. Hit the other former members of Rev Team up. I know it's true for me, and it wouldn't surprise me if the other members are totally down with, you know, taking another attempt at a project like this. And if not, at least maybe we can help you avoid some pitfalls. But hey, 2020 wasn't all bad. There were some good things. The largest series of uprisings in U.S. history swept the country. Police stations burned. Chaz happened. For a bit. But it happened. As for my personal life, I moved, which is stressful and expensive. My cat died, which is stressful and expensive in different ways. I started playing a lot of D&D, which I'll talk about later, and I got kind of a promotion at work. So my supervisor went on paternity leave for 3 months, and I agreed to fill in for him. This came, you know, with a lot more pay, but also with a lot more stress. I'm probably going to do a video about my experience in that position because it really crystallized some things for me. So quite a lot of things came together to draw me away from this channel, both emotionally and frankly physically. But overall, I think I did pretty good. I'm quite happy with how my work this year turned out. The Wacky Politics of After School was a video that I had been wanting to make for months, and I finally got around to finishing it, and I think it turned out better than I had actually hoped. Cops, Riots, and Necessary Change, I threw together surprisingly fast, and from the pieces of a video that I actually abandoned because it was really cringy. And I think that turned out really good, especially given how fast I actually cranked it out. And I know I said last year that I didn't really like that my videos that talk about controversial individuals were my most popular, but I'm okay with this one being my most viewed video. I would prefer that it was my reintroduction video from 2019, but I'm okay with this one. So, fuck you, 2020. What are we doing in 2021? Well, unlike dipshit Quinn from last year, I do not think that 2021 is going to be a good year. It's going to be terrible. So I am making absolutely no goals for myself. Aside from, you know, not abandoning this channel and disappearing from the internet altogether. Instead, I will tell you about a few videos that I already have in the works. I already mentioned that I want to do a video about my experience as a corporate retail supervisor. I haven't actually started working on that one yet, but it seems pretty quick and easy to crank out. I have 2 bigger video projects that I'm currently working on. One of them is a video about the show Letterkenny, which is this hilarious yet problematic show that makes these really weird attempts at inclusion and representation, and it's just weird. During the election in November, I put up a poll saying, what video should I do if Texas goes blue? And it turns out Texas was not riding for Biden, but a surprising number of people really wanted me to do a video about Letterkenny. So I'm gonna do it anyway. Fuck Texas. The second one is about how I hate the character of Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077. I actually really liked Cyberpunk 2077, though I do acknowledge that literally every criticism I've heard of the game is 100% accurate. One of the things, though, is that I think Johnny Silverhand is just a huge problem for it, and I've yet to see anyone really break him down. I have several ranting pages worth of notes, and Comrade on Twitter helped me out by giving me the relevant passages from the tabletop RPG books for Cyberpunk, the ones that deal with Johnny Silverhand. So, probably be doing that one sooner rather than later. I have other ideas brewing, but not in a state that I am ready to announce them or anything. History has kind of shown that I tend to think that I will maintain interest in something, and then it turns out I just completely lose all interest in it, which brings me back to Dungeons and Dragons. So I don't think I've talked about it here in a long time, but I have ADD. I was diagnosed back in the 90s when it was the hip thing to prescribe Ritalin to disruptive children. When I got older, I basically started believing that I was either misdiagnosed or that ADD was just something that people made up in order to pathologize children who didn't fit into the box they wanted them to fit into. But having connected with a lot of other people with ADD over the last few years, I've come to the conclusion that it is a real thing, and I very much have it. It's well known that folks with ADD have a difficulty focusing on projects and tasks, but the flip side of this that is a little less well known is that we also tend to hyper-focus on one thing. And this is the story of my life. It's why when I was a kid, I was basically an encyclopedia of knowledge about the Star Wars universe before they scrapped the old canon. It's why I was in 3 bands while I was in high school, and I wrote my own solo music. And it's why in 2019, I spent all my free time working on this YouTube channel. So the way it works for me is whatever I'm hyper-focused on will be all I think about, like all day while I'm at work. I'll get up in the morning, I'll go to work, I'll be doing my job, and all day long I would be thinking, I'd be writing scripts in my head. And then when I get home, all I would want to do is, actually write down those scripts, edit videos, research topics, shoot videos, etc., etc. Before YouTube, I was like this with Magic the Gathering. I would spend all day in my head brewing decks, and then when I would come home, I would actually build them, or I design proxies, or I would tweak my decks, and occasionally I'd even play the game. I had little stacks of cards all over my apartment. I think some of them are visible in my old videos. I have 32 commander decks still, all but 4 color combinations. But eventually my focus shifted to YouTube, and I stopped thinking about Magic altogether. The people I used to play with will still talk to me about the latest cards, and it's like all I can do to not tell them that I couldn't possibly give less of a shit. It occupies 0% of my brain these days. And in the last few months, I can feel my focus shifting, and frankly, it's been going on for pretty much all 2020. I found a really great D&D group. online on Discord that is full of trans, non-binary, and queer folks. I'm playing between 2 and 3 campaigns with them, depending on what happens in the next few weeks. And when I go to work, I'm brewing D&D characters in my head. When I come home, I'm either playing or flipping through the books or building these characters, or I'm working on D&D worlds of my own. When I commute, I'm listening to Not Another D&D Podcast and Critical Role. I'm starting to hyper-focus again. But I have found, at least for now, a nice balance of interest between D&D, YouTube, politics, media, and cooking, which I am getting quite good at, if I do say so myself. So while I have been kind of losing myself to other interests, I do still have topics that I come across that I just have to make videos about, that consume my every waking thought. The Johnny Silverhand subject is one of them. So I find it highly unlikely that I'm going to stop doing this anytime soon. In fact, add my experience with ADD to the list of videos that I'm going to make this year. Future Quinn, back again. So, even more stuff has happened between now and when I recorded this. My partner and I were given notice that we have to move out of our current place because apparently the owner is going to take up residence. Yes, I know we live in Washington State where they can't evict us, but conveniently, the date we were given to move out by is the exact date that the current eviction moratorium ends. Now, even though I do think the moratorium will be extended, and part of me wants to refuse to leave just on principle, they did give us more than the required 60 days notice, and it's not as though we'll end up houseless or moving back in with parents. We'll be fine. And fortunately, what with the raise I've received at work and the near certainty of another stimulus, this likely won't be a great financial burden, but it does throw a wrench into a few things. This channel among them. Also, it sucks because we really like this place and had planned on being here for a while. So, since I will have to come up with a new set that works for filming in whatever new place we end up in, I'm actually going to take the opportunity to spruce things up around here a bit. I'm gonna clean my room. I'm gonna do a bit of a rebrand, as the kids say. Not sure what direction I'll take this in. Maybe I'll start using a green screen or something. I don't fucking know. But the one thing I am pretty sure I'm going to do is start transitioning the name of this channel to my name. This will be a bit of a process, especially since all the URLs for all my social media are whatever.com/PaxParallax. And I probably should have considered that before I customized my YouTube URL, but whatever. Pax Parallax is, frankly, gibberish. I just chose it because it sounds cool, but that's also why I chose the name Quinn Oswin, and I think it's time I start using that instead of my, frankly, hackneyed attempt at a brand. Anyway, through this process I'm going to dig in and make decisions about what I want this channel to be in the near future. And now I'm realizing that I just set myself a goal for 2021. God damn it. So, before I wrap this up, I want to thank all my patrons. Questing Refuge, Monkey Revolution, Sam, and Rebecca Solar Willpower. I also want to thank everybody who subscribed this year. I almost tripled my subs. Well, that's pretty cool. But I also want to thank everybody who liked, everybody who commented, and even the people who just watched. So, stay safe. Stay radical, and good riddance to 2020. Let's ring in the new year, comrades.
Hey! Fucking hey, man. Glad to see you guys. You guys are fucking patriots. Look at this guy. He's got covered in blood. God bless you.
Yes.
You good, sir? Do you need medical attention?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
I got shot in the face. Where are they? I got shot in the face with some kind of plastic bullet.
Any chance I could get you guys to leave the Senate wing?
We will. I've been making sure they ain't disrespecting the place.
Okay, just want to let you guys know, this is like the sacredest place.
I know, hey.
Or let's not, and say we did. Cheers.